So today's jargon term, one, I cannot believe we don't already have this on our jargon roll, because we've covered this many times before, and it's very apropos because officially I think today everyone is back to school. So our term for today is IEP. Oh, do you remember back in the old days when like somebody, if they had said IEP, you wouldn't have known what they were talking about? Do you remember those good old times? But the truth is we got to make friends with the IEP process. So let's take a look at what our actual definition, what is an IEP? An IEP, it stands for an individualized education program or plan, depending on where you live in the world. Some people like program, some people like plan. They're both P words. We can get along. Tomato, tomato, right? Okay, it's a federally mandated in the United States legal document that details education goals for a specific child within the within the special education scope. Now, I got to be honest that when we started this show, and we've done this so many times, this has been quite a while ago that we wrote this, we were making the show and thinking that we were just going to be this little stateside show, and I know that there are many of you that are watching around the world now, and gosh, we love that. We love that. So this is a United States federally mandated legal document, but I'd love to hear from those of you around the world. What do you call this kind of a thing, and what do you have in other countries? It's always educational to learn what other people, because we spend a lot of time going sometimes to this stuff that we have here, only to find out that other people don't have an IEP process. So we want to embrace the IEP process, right? So this is our actual definition. This to me is scary. I don't see how this is helpful to me. So let's move on to our working definition. The IEP is a written plan to educate a child with special needs that must be followed. I like to think of it as the roadmap, right? Do you remember back in the old days when we didn't have smartphones and you had to unfold the roadmap and to know where you were and where you were going and how you were going to get there? And I used to love, in particular, back in the 70s and the 80s, whenever we would go on a road trip, my parents would call AAA and they would get something called a triptych. And it was a roadmap, right? But it had a kind of scroll. It was like the precursor to Google Maps or the Waze program. So it was on this flip sort of thing, and it would show you where you were, and it would give you, you know how when you go like this to your map to see close up, oh, there's a Denny's there, right? Well, this did this for you. It was just on a paper map. So you had your big map, and then you had the smaller map that showed you close-ups, and you flipped through it to get to the next page. It was very exciting. Well, an IEP is exactly that. It's a roadmap that shows you here's where you are, here's where you want to get, here are the roads we're going to take to get there, and then let's go like this to see, well, exactly what is happening here that gets you to the next place. It's a really useful tool when it works well and when the right stuff is written into it. The problem is that because it's a legal document, we get into people trying to ensure that they can deliver what's in the document, right? Now that's reasonable. Nobody should be writing pie-in-the-sky goals for an IEP because that doesn't help us, right? So, but I think sometimes where it gets contentious is that it's a crucial document for the parents so that they have a say in how their child gets educated for a period of time. It's usually a year, and sometimes an IEP will last for several years. Every 3 years, it has to be evaluated. And the school district, the administrators, are going to try to make sure that they are never in a situation where they are non-compliant with the IEP, because that's a legal issue for them that they don't want to get into. None of us wants to descend, when we're talking about education, none of us wants to descend into legal battles. That doesn't get us anywhere, right? But sometimes you have to, right? So the school district is going to try to make sure that their IEP is written in a way that they can deliver it. And the teachers are somewhere in between saying, hey, that's great, but we have to be able to educate the child with what is left on this piece of paper, right? So you got 3 points in a triangle that if it's working well together, it happens and it's brilliant.